we are live. Hello, everyone, and good evening. Okay, it's the second one. Yes, hello, everyone, and here we are going to talk about AI. And as we all know, the importance and the challenge that we see in the future, and also we already have something in the house, right? We already have EU AI Act. We already have AI governance frameworks across US. So what's so new about it, right? I think a lot of people ask me that. So what's new? Uh, okay. So what's new? What's new? I think Supratim is here. I think when somebody who knows about the advisory, about the knowledge, about how legal laws probably uh, the perception kind of that how the perception comes out. Yeah. So how the perception comes out, right? And by the way, folks, I just want to kind of really do a quick appreciation for all of you because it's 7:30 p.m. and I have a co-panelist with me who looks as fresh, as fresh as I see him in the morning. So first of all, hats off, to that energy, right? So always good to be on the panel with Mr. Supratim, and always yeah.
Sorry,
I also
Akash,
feel
I
like
think your internet is glitching, I think, a bit. So now it's
yeah, but
fine. Yeah.
I have yeah, I have to manage with this. Just have one internet line, and that's Airtel. And to all the Airtel customer support guys, just look at this video going, 2 3 seconds late. I want you to yes. Uh, I feel like I think I'm really sorry. I hope this doesn't happen again. And I just tried changing and switching internet, so I'm really sorry for that, everyone, to the audience. But we will get going, right? We will get going, and if I'm not there, I think we have one of the best people on the panel to discuss and give you information, on AI regulations in India. And before we start this, right, before we start our conversation, I would like to pass on the mic quickly and just ask, like just ask Subratim, like, what's your flavor? When I ask flavor, I just want to understand what is this uh, thought, right, that you're seeing from the government's perspective, right, not from industry. What are you seeing about AI? Is it really really hot? That's how the market is. Do you think that regulations are coming, Digital India Act is coming, guidelines are coming, or do you think no, it's we'll wait for some more time? Or how do you see this government, like, are regulations coming? Are they actually, are these news actually the truth, or are they, no, are they slow? Yeah, before we start.
Right. Thank you, Akash, and thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. Can you hear me, Akash? Right. Okay. So, how are we looking at it as from a regulatory perspective? Okay. You would remember that sometime back we had thought of the journey towards a Digital India Act, and there were or there were some Digital India dialogues. You would remember that in Bangalore, there was a very a good session on, I think, 9th of March 2023, where the outline of the Digital India Act was proposed. Okay, in that we got to know a lot about what is forthcoming, and one of the interesting things which was talked about was unbundling of the concept of intermediary. Okay, and that is, I think, the confusion today in the market, because if you look at the advisory which is being spoken about, etc., have started talking of platforms alternatively with intermediaries. Okay, if you remember that India dialogue, there was this whole discussion around intermediary today has a definition starting from telecom service provider to cyber cafes. Now you're trying to paint the whole world with the same brush, right? A more appropriate approach probably would be to slice and dice and see that, if there are different categories of such intermediaries who can be guided differently, that could be a great approach. Okay, I think so. We were moving well, and because of the delay that has occurred in such a legislation, which will the Digital India Act, which was supposed to be the mother umbrella legislation for the digital ecosystem in India, probably you get to see these knee jerk kind of advisories which are creating such a flutter. So I think we are in the right trajectory. We are possibly headed towards a more comprehensive, robust law in future. But before that comes into play, we will have to handle and tackle situations through means like these.
And I think that's where we are headed. By the way, we have. I did not expect this. I did not expect this at all. We have 60 people live with us, Supratim. And we just
So,
dropped this. We just dropped this event yesterday. So we had no time for registrations. We did not send anything about this. And if you remember yesterday, we were having this conversation that all our clients, and all my
yeah.
circle is anxious, right? We all are anxious. So what do we do now? The regulation is out. The minister has said something. What is the next step, right? What do we do right now? And what is it that has been told, right? So these are the two things that are on the criteria, on the top priority for all of us. And we all, and as we both have been studying this, getting into this, so we are here to kind of discuss that. Okay, so let's get going, guys. So today's discussion will be on AI regulation in India. And before we start this, right, I have a question for you. Where are you joining us from? And I'm joining you from Bangalore. And Supratim, where are you joining us from? I did
I'm in
not ask this.
Calcutta right now.
You're in Calcutta right now. Okay. So, and what about you guys? Where are you joining us from? Everybody who's live with us. And this session is happening for you. So if you have a question, drop it in the chat box. We are reading the chats, we are reading your comments. So please feel free to drop a question, and please do drop where I know this is a PII, and the legal basis for processing is public benefit. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get into that. But yeah. So a bit about Saro Consulting. What we do is we are a leading privacy GRC AI service provider. We work with largest organizations in India today to help them with their privacy program, to help them with their security programs, to help them build do AI trust assessments. So that's a bit about us. The disclaimer is that we do not represent our companies. We are here on individual basis. This session is not a legal advice, right? I'm not a lawyer, so anyways, it wouldn't have been. But Supratim is here, so this is still not a legal advice. And yeah, okay. A bit about Supratim Chakrabarti. He's a partner at Khetan and Co. He has been a leader in the industry when it comes to AI privacy regulations, and his expertise. I don't know. I think everybody who's in the session will already know him. If you don't know him, guys, do LinkedIn him. Do follow him, and he speaks a lot. And people love listening to him in conferences. So if you get a chance, my suggestion is go and try it out. A bit about myself. My name is Akash Singh. I'm the founder at Saro Consulting. My name, I have done a lot of certifications, right? It's all the privacy certifications probably. Uh, and I am also part of IVP Advisory Board. It's been 7 years since I have been working in privacy, and it's been 3 years since I have been building Saro. So overall, 3 years and total 7 years in privacy. That's a bit about myself. And Subradhan, would you like to quickly introduce yourself as well before we get
Right.
ahead?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, Shupratim Chakraborty. I'm a partner in this law firm, Khetan and Company. It's one of the largest full service law firms of the country. I have 15 plus years of experience, corporate commercial lawyer, and also have been doing data technology for quite some time now. I've been fortunate to have advised not only the best of clients domestically and internationally, but also have given meaningful inputs to the government for the upcoming digital laws of the country. That's a quick snapshot about myself. Thank you.
Yeah, and definitely, I think the amount of one question everybody asks is like, as you are in Calcutta, right? But we never see you in Calcutta. We every time I am in Bangalore, you are there. In Bombay, you are there. In Delhi, you are there. So yeah. But before we get into this, how do you manage this air travel, sir? Right, that's a more
No,
important question and learning for all of us.
right. I think my wife has some similar questions. But anyway, so I think one thing we realized is that technology is agnostic of the location. But as you know, when the post-COVID era came, we saw that of course there is still a lot of intent to meet up physically, and rightfully so, right? There's a lot of warmth when you meet up people. So the idea is that this should not really be a hindrance in what we are doing. There's a lot of passion. Akash, you also have that. So we have to be there wherever we are required. It is always a great thing to meet up with the close community of people that we work together with, and we are trying to make a better ecosystem overall in India, which was not existing. So it's changing every day, and we are trying to see that we build a community around this, who will move along with us wherever we are.
Definitely. I think, and I have to, totally agree with you. I think, the amount of speed that the Indian economy is at, right? We all are having a lot of work, whoever we are, right? So wherever we are in a law firm, we are in a consulting firm, all of us, the ecosystem is growing super fast in India. I think one of the fastest ecosystems. I feel like even in privacy, and if you look at AI, the amount of people who got trained and the amount of people
Yeah.
who learned and are delivering today in last 3 years is commendable. I think everybody has to agree internationally that we have a very large community in privacy and AI and trust and assessments and cyber. So yeah, and India is
Akash,
that.
recently I was in a conference and very interesting question came up. Is AI going to take up a lot of jobs? And the answer to that was probably it will transform a lot of jobs. Okay, so I think that's what you're observing right now, and it will keep happening. You'll see a huge movement towards this transformation, and the individuals and organizations and bodies who lap this up, the sooner the better it will be.
Sure. I think totally, agreed. Totally agreed. So getting on to the session, I think everybody here has been waiting, for our, golden words. So let's get going. So before we get into it, before we get into the trust frameworks, before we get into what is happening, what is the history? Is there any history in India that you think like is there for AI guidelines? Because what we have seen is there is some or the other guideline coming from 2018, but none of the guidelines seem to be binding. When I say binding, I mean like there's nothing like a deadline which says that okay, if you are building a AI product, if you're using AI in your technology, then you have to, let's say, have these basics done. Because AI also, after OpenAI, got super fast. So I just want to ask you, like, what do you think in terms of any binding guidelines, or how are we right now in this ecosystem, in by NITI or by NITI Aayog? Do you see that?
Yeah, so like I was mentioning, Akash, I think we started off with a journey that we need to have a mother umbrella legislation which is future ready, because clearly the Information Technology Act of 2000 is right now not being able to cope up with a lot of these new age issues that are cropping up, whether it is through generative AI, whether it is through emerging technologies or new cyber crimes, etc. And therefore, there was this thought process that we need a completely revamped solution, which will be in the form of Digital India Act, which will be like Information Technology Act plus plus. It will get in all those elements which are missing today and make it a future, ready legislation. And there were discussions, deliberations. You were aware of it. There were outlines which were put forth. One of the critical things there was this whole concept of intermediary. Okay, today when we are looking at the advisory in question, we observe that intermediary and platform are being used side by side. Okay, we are considering that these are one and the same, and one kind of rule which is there should apply, which is applying to intermediary today, should apply to platforms. Now, whilst it's very, I would say, easy to say, but purely when you look at it from a legal perspective, it is slightly different because uh, I'll read out maybe the definition of intermediary so that everyone kind of understands this. It says that intermediary with respect to any particular electronic records means any person who, on behalf of another person, receives, stores, or transmits that record or provides any service with respect to that record and includes telecom service providers, network service provider, internet service provider, web hosting service providers, search engines, online platforms, payment sites, online auction sites, online marketplace, and cyber cafes. So you painted the whole world starting from telecom service provider to cyber cafe with the same set of regulations. And that's what we are trying to apply. Now, when you say platform, maybe the intent for platform was slightly different. It was probably the ones which, you would say, for example, a social media platform, right? On those lines. And therefore, I will request if you guys can lay your hands on that slide deck, which was circulated by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology after the Digital India Dialogue of 9th of March 2023 in Bangalore. Just read, try and go through that. You'll understand why you are observing what you're observing. In that, in one of the slides, it's talking about what would be the benefit of this new law. We would have accountable internet, and there they talk about obligations on significant digital operators through classifications and mandates. So that was probably the intent, that we will classify these intermediaries into different kind of intermediaries, and we will give them specific obligations, duties, etc. Had that happened, it would have been a far better approach. We would have more, proper consultation in order to understand that, what all should be pegged as definite obligations on such parties. But that has not happened. So we are trying to now see within the limited avenue available under Information Technology Act, intermediary rules, etc. How do we fix? So that's where we are, Akash. Possibly, post the elections, we would get to see a proper legislation being crafted and rolled out. But till then, we'll have to deal with this.
Yeah. And okay, so I think one guidance that you just gave is that now we have to go back on the March 2022 discussion on for MIDI that happened in Bangalore, and everybody can quickly read that and get some information as to and create some basic infrastructure. But also because we are in this building stage, and I have been in building stage, Subratim. I think last 3 years I have been building. So what I've realized is, if you do it early, like I know all my friends who are, including me, right? We got a huge advantage when we started doing privacy compared to other fields. So do you also feel like AI is that field now, and next 3 years, will be of privacy and AI for all the. I'm talking about the governance professionals, TMT lawyers, people who are just starting their careers. So just an add-on question, like, do you think that this is the time for them?
Yeah, see, I think any profession you see, Akash, is impacted by AI. So it's an absolute no-brainer that you need to get equipped with the reality. And there was a study done, what kind of people are impacted. Again, recently we had a very nice conference on this. And it was also to look at the human side of things, right? Because there'll be, there's fear of job loss, etc. So we need to recalibrate people, upskill them, reskill them, etc. So there was this fragmentation which was thought of. Older people who are reluctant to really changes and are not able to equip themselves, and then you have the younger lot which are basically just coming into the profession. They suddenly see a huge change and shift from what they would have studied versus what they see in workplace. And then there are people in between who have to recalibrate and equip themselves to this new normal, right? So I think whilst we are looking at the technology part of it, Akash, there's also a very good human part of it which we should not lose sight of. Because otherwise, what will happen, you will see a large population which is not able to cope up with this fast change.
Definitely, I think this is the same thing that I keep saying around, that uh, generation which is on Snapchat, right, is not on Facebook. Generation who is on Instagram is not on Orkut. And so henceforth, there is a generational change that we see, and world is moving really really fast. So I think we can't, like, now we don't have an option to not change. And the next thing I also feel is, if and when you find a AI product to kind of implement in your current system, and I see a lot of law firms, like, they're trying to build something so that they can get some advice, do their contracts faster, at least identify things that people have to read. They're not, obviously AI is not in a decision, but at least it is flagging out things, that these
Yeah.
things seem more important.
Yeah. So Akash, I actually have been doing some bit of studying on different kind of products which are there, and I'm also a corporate M&A lawyer. Mergers and acquisition has been bread and butter for quite some time, and when we look at this practice, how it has evolved, it is phenomenal with the help of AI and technology. If you look at the entire cycle, right, it starts with putting all the data into a data room, and then there'll be people who would look into the information and make a DD report. We are almost in a zone where the first cut of that DD report would be generated by the virtual data room itself. It will tell you there are 100 contracts, 75 of them have indemnity clauses of X percentage. So you accordingly, when you're going for the first meeting, you are that much more intelligent. Now, is that going to fully replace individuals or professionals? Answer is no. You would still need to double check, but at least as a sense check, right now, you would understand where you are. I often say that we maybe started off with a first year an intern when you have that cheap chat GPT one, then it became a first year associate, then it became a second year associate. Now we are in the senior associate, principal associate zone, and probably becoming better from there.
True that. True that. I think that's how it keeps growing, right? That's how the value chain, it goes up. So with the recent developments, I think we just discussed about this. So coming to EU AI Act, I think I'll kind of take a bit of this, and then we'll go back to our conversation. So basically, what is happening in EU AI Act right now is, there are first. So basically, I am a consultant, right? I do assessment, so I'll talk about that. So what we do in EU AI Act right now is, we're doing two things actually. First thing is, we are analyzing what type of risk score can come to a AI. So whenever, if you are building a AI, if your team is building a AI, the first level of assessment that we're doing is assessing what is the risk in that AI. And depending on the risks flagged on that first assessment, the next assessment, you go deep down and you try to see whether transparency is there, whether AI can take a decision or not, whether a human can stop that decision, if the data can be changed, and what is the how much can it harm people, right? So these are the few things that get covered in EU AI Act assessments per se, right? So we are doing that a lot nowadays. So that's a bit about assessments per se. Like, if you want to do an assessment, this is how you can do it. Okay. So there are a few compliance best practices that we just noted down. I thought everybody is here, so maybe you can take something home. So basically, right now, if you look at AI, what you can do is, you can look at your current framework. If you don't have a framework, if you don't have a policy, now is the time to build that policy. Also, a lot of organizations are trying to stop Gen AI, because what they're doing using their DLP system is, they're trying to analyze what type of prompt you are going to put in the system, so that the PII of the organization doesn't go on ChatGPT. So if your organization, if you think that a lot of people are using it, it's also a good time to improve your DLP, and try to see if the prompt that goes on ChatGPT or any AI doesn't have PII per se. So there is one more control, one more policy right now that is, on fire right now. Everybody needs that. Next thing is when you're building an algorithm and the decision making process, these things have to be transparent and comprehensive. And I'll tell you something interesting. So what happened is I was talking to somebody who was building. So they already are a very big tech platform, and they were trying to implement AI into their process. And the problem that they had is, we keep talking about transparency, right? I think as a principle, we keep talking about AI. The biggest principle is transparency. That we should know everything what is happening inside, and we can flow the data map. We can flow data that is going in. We have model operations. What he mentioned is right now all the AI output that is coming. Talking about the output, it's mostly black box. So we do not know how can that change, right? It's always a game of, test. You test it. If the output seems okay, you're like, okay. But if you do not have that answer right now, right, it's very difficult to achieve whether the answer was right. What is the percentage of rightness? What is the percentage of transparency, right? We do not, right now we are not in that stage to calculate it. So a new concept got born. We started talking about model operations. So in model operations, what happens is model operations basically becomes your governance engine of AI. So whatever AI tool, product, assess, like work is going to happen, model operations sit on top of it, and using that model operations, you manage the governance of this. Like what is the transparency level, what is the comprehensive level, if the wrong decision is being taken. So all these things get covered through model operations, right? And we are going to cover all of them. I don't know if you folks know about our next session, in Wells Fargo office. So if you're part of Saru Privacy Updates community, you can see that. But if you're not part of it, try to be there. We have a session specifically on model operations, on how this AI thing works and how model operations can be set up. Yeah. So coming back, right? Coming back to the recent developments. So Subramanian, I think the news just came through, right? And we all have been a bit jinxed. I think this happened in a week since Google Gemini. Some issue has happened with Google Gemini. So can you shed some light on what has happened in AI in India in last 1 week? Because I saw two news. One news I saw that everybody has to follow the governance framework, and the next news that I saw was that startups need not follow. Right. So these are the two news that I have read. So what's your take on that?
Right. I think so. Akash, interestingly, the it's about an advisory, and the advisory, to my mind, has not been formally released. But there is a PIB release on this, which is kind of giving the outline of the entire context of that particular advisory. Again, like I was mentioning, this advisory talks about the due diligence that are to be conducted by intermediaries and platforms under the information technology intermediary related rules. Okay. Now, what, in very, very crude sense, what were intermediaries? Intermediaries, like one of my good friends say, is supposed to be a dumb container or a dumb pipeline. You don't know what is passing through you, and therefore you should remain insulated. You did not originate the information, you did not change the information whilst it was on track, and you also did not select who should be the end recipient. That is a classic intermediary who should get the insulation, because you are a postman. You should not be penalized for the package that you are carrying, right? As the law developed further on intermediary, you were told that start looking into some of the harmful things which should not be carried. And it has become so comprehensive, so robust right now, that there are many, many things which have gotten added under the under the umbrella of due diligence that are to be carried out by such platforms. Okay. Now, again, I'm emphasizing and overemphasizing on the point that we do not have a definition for platforms under the Information Technology Act, but this particular advisory appears to be giving diktat to certain platforms in relation to the AI that is getting deployed, etc. Of course, it seems to be all well intentioned. The only thing is, it should have been probably thought through better with more consultation, and understood that what are the ramifications and who all this could apply to. Okay. Now, coming to the point of that this being applicable to only certain categories of players and not the startups. At least I have not seen any formal, advisory on that. So that is also kind of expected. Possibly a good way forward is there should be a very clear formal release on this front in order to clarify as to what is to be done for which kind of players, because there's a lot of confusion in the market, which is creating not a very happy situation for players. Okay, because more or less, Akash, like you were saying, you were also mentioning, is that people are experimenting with AI, right? Because of the day and age that we are in. So people are now jittery that what we are doing, and some of these could have been already deployed, etc. Where are we? Are we falling foul of law? Whom do we go and get permission from, etc., etc.? So I think more news is coming through from I think around 1st of March onwards. Hopefully, this air should be clarified. Should be cleared very soon. But a few things which I was thinking probably could be a good way forward is identification of harms. We should focus on a harms based principle possibly. There should be a meaningful consultation and stakeholder identification. If you look at AI, you have, say, a developer, a deployer, a manufacturer, all of those. So, what role is being played by whom, and to what extent who should be responsible? I think that should be delineated better. Just a quick snapshot. Akash. Over to you.
Yeah, I feel like, I did not know. I think thanks for, first of all, giving that, uh, thanks for giving that information on the intermediaries and explaining. I'm sorry. So thanks for explaining the intermediary thing. And I have been seeing a lot of Shark Tank nowadays. And I really like those snippets, right? When they are explaining and then they wait and they are like, this is the definition. So I think it's a very
Right.
similar.
And see, there is also question mark, Akash, that are these Gen AI platforms really intermediaries? I told you that it is ideally a dumb container or a pipeline, but are these really an intermediary? That's also getting questioned in the market. So a lot of questions rather than answers. I'll leave it to you, go to go back to your presentation, and we'll speak about this
Yeah,
as we go ahead.
I feel like if people ask me what to do right now, right? If somebody asks me what to do right now, and what are we doing for our clients, is we whatever at wherever place they're building a tool, they're building a product, or they're embedding AI into their product. I just ask them that while doing the privacy impact assessment, let's also do a AI trust assessment using the NIST framework. And we are experts in finding the risks there, because we already have an Amsterdam office, and we have been working with AI for some time now for our clients. So what we have learned from that is, like over the period of time, it's more about the governance framework. Like, think about it. 3 years back, when India didn't have a law, so we were still doing NIST frameworks in US, because they are standard frameworks. So let's say the guideline comes in, let's say in a month or something like that, or whatever people are building, now is the time to at least build it right. Because with privacy, I think everyone's hand is burned. Now, every meeting I go to, everybody tells me in the product team is, this is not viable, this is not feasible, this is not affordable. And I keep telling them that this is not possible, right? You can't continue this, because this is not an option. This has to stop, because you are going to fine. So again, what I'm trying to say is, build it right. Being in a hurry and not following compliance, I think we are past that in India, right? We are past that. I think now is not the time. I think RBI has taught us enough, right? That this is not the time to play with Indian, Indian authorities, because I think we have learned that, right? It's in the past, an organization has set context, and every other organization which is going to come in tech and law will definitely be in a very similar position, doing a similar following a similar process, because already a context is set, and we all know what can a authority do, right? They just pause it. So, yeah. And I think this also brings us towards the end of the session. And while going, I would like to ask you, if you enjoyed this session, if you can drop a comment, and give us a feedback, something that we can improve or something that you liked in the session, it would be really helpful in the comment. And Supratim, over to you for final thoughts on this today.
Right. No, Akash, just one taking a cue from what you were saying towards the end that, the authorities, how they are kind of right now. So, a related authority, which is CERT-IN, Computer Emergency Response Team of India, when, sometime back, a year plus back, when they said that 6 hours cybersecurity breach reporting, everyone went into a tizzy and most of them were not following, etc. But now we have a situation where folks are getting a lot of show cause notices. Okay, the certain at time is going to the dark web, taking screenshot of Indian companies data being up for sale and sending such communications to that particular company. Are you aware of this? Did you report to this to us? Did you report to impacted users, etc.? So whilst you might be thinking that these are all hypothetical issues and concerns, these are not. Some of these are actually happening as real threats today. And of course we are assisting the clients wherever we're able to. So yeah, that I think is the final takeaway, that be prepared, because these are not very far away. These are quite close to today.
Yeah. And thank you, everyone. And thank you for joining us. I know it's a bit late. Yeah. And have a nice day. And thank you, Supratim, for joining us. It's at a short notice. And I hope we have helped you out. And I can see a lot of comments. Thank you, Paki. And Ashish, I think you have missed out answering for you. Samik, you want to know about the AI governance framework, right? So we are just talking to B2B businesses right now, Samik. So if you want to come through a formal, notification, please do reach out to us. But we're not doing training, so I get it. And have a nice day, guys, and have a nice day. I wish you all the luck and all the best. So, Vinay, you want to say something?
No, Ashish, wanted the PIB link. Ashish, you may ping me on LinkedIn. I will share that with you.
Sure. Perfect. And have a nice day, folks. And I'll see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.